So now it's time to talk about organism communication. You don't have to be an animal to communicate. Plants communicate all kinds of chemistry between one another. But basically, living things are receiving information and acting on it. And that's the key part of life on Earth. So organisms are always exchanging information with each other, whether it be chemical or visual or auditory, and that can alter behavior. We've already talked about that with like hormones like pheromones. The list goes past that though. Some animals just have built-in communication. Their bodies scream a message. This animal right here is screaming a message. Most people are intrinsically afraid of snakes that look like that. As it turns out, this snake is actually harmless, but it's a mimic of this snake. This snake is screaming a message, which is, I'm venomous, don't touch me. This is the Texas coral snake, the model. It's in the group of snakes called elapids. They have rear fangs, but the fangs carry a really potent venom, and it's actually a second messenger blocker. So the coral snake, like the mamba and the cobra, they have neurotoxin venom that's similar to the sea wasp, and it blocks second messenger communication of nerve impulses, and as a result causes paralysis and death in a victim. So the snakes' bodies, though, communicate just with the color that they have. Many toxic animals do that. Bright orange and yellow colors have evolved to warn predators that danger is present. So bees and wasps, ants, poison frogs, venomous snakes all communicate about potential toxicity to predators that may be wandering by. Any animal that does not heed the warning, a hawk, a coyote, will often die. And that eliminates them, leaving behind the animals that just intrinsically left the brightly colored animals alone to have babies that will probably inherit that trait. So predator fitness is a function, or I should say, includes wariness of brightly colored foods that are in its habitat. So a hawk, the fitness of a hawk is determined by a lot of its behaviors and its lack of selection of potentially toxic prey animals. So it turns out, though, over time, evolution has produced mimics. And this king snake is a mimic of the coral snake. The mimic is usually not poisonous, but it looks so much like the model. This is called the model, that most animals will avoid both. There are flies, for example, that resemble bees, and this is the king snake that resembles the coral snake. So mimicry is a common phenomenon in the animal kingdom, where animals with their body colors communicate information falsely to other animals. So there's animals and plants use a variety of signal behaviors to cue one another, and those signals that they're like transmitting, whether it be a male bird doing a dance for a female, that is supposed to produce a change in the behavior of the female. So a male peacock that is ruffling his feathers for the female is hoping to induce a change in the female behavior so that she'll mate with him. Plants produce all kinds of chemicals. They produce a variety of pigments that are for things besides photosynthesis. Many of those pigments are specifically to attract pollinators and reward them with nectar for coming to the flower, picking up pollen, and carrying that to another flower. For a plant species, loss of its pollinator is usually the result of extinction, or it usually will result in extinction. So in Hawaii, The loss of the honey creepers has resulted in the decline and loss of many species of orchids that were once endemic there. The honey creepers were lost because of the change of habitat in the islands after the arrival of Europeans and the introduction of all kinds of invasive species, along with predators. Mammals mark their territories, males usually with urine. Bears will mark them by ripping the bark off of trees 8 or more feet off the ground. Male mammals will urinate at the margins of their territories to mark their territory. The marking sign actually limits aggressive altercations because other animals learn, oh, there's a male here that probably I don't want to run into, and they avoid then what could potentially be a fatal interaction. Hikers, it's always good to read animal sign when you're hiking because if you walk into an animal's territory, the bear will be startled and potentially become aggressive and could hurt you. So ability to read communication signals is a major part of a fitness profile for a life form. So animals use all kinds of cues, visual, audible, tactile, electrical, and chemical signals to communicate. Animal signals will communicate dominance, maybe aid in finding food, marking territories, or ensure reproductive success, like the dance of a male peacock for the female. Bird songs, there's a classic. The male birds are usually the ones that do most of the song production, and they're trying to attract a mate, an appropriate mate. Females are generally only attracted to bird calls of their own species, and correct bird song production and interaction is kind of critical for fitness for both the males and the females. So what we have here in this case, anemones attacking each other in a territorial contest. We have, and they're communicating with each other. Dominance for like a rock is all it is on a reef. The butterfly here, it sees the brightly colored red flower. That's a communicating signal. The butterfly actually lands, pulls nectar off the flower. In doing so, it picks up pollen and takes it to the next brightly colored red flower. And here we have a bird, looks like a thrush, actually singing, announcing its presence. It is both telling other males, stay away, and it's telling females, hey, I'm here, come check me out. So now, responses to behaviors are actually, it's not just the creation of a signal, it's the response to the signal is also vital to fitness. Animal innate and learned behaviors are a very important part of a fitness lifestyle. So innate behaviors are behaviors that just are programmed into the animal, and the animal did not have to learn them to actually perform them, whereas learned behaviors are actually learned from other members of the species and then repeated. Predator avoidance behaviors in rural animals such as squirrels are critically important. So a hiker on a hike will pass by maybe 20 squirrels but never see one in a rural area, whereas in a city park, all the squirrels are visible. In a city park, the squirrels become habituated. They learn that it is not fit for them to run away from humans, which don't really threaten them. But in a rural area, a human is a real threat to a squirrel, as many humans that are walking in the woods are hunting them. So a squirrel in the woods is most fit running away, whereas a squirrel in an urban area is most fit to not run away. Habituation is an adaptation. So it says urban squirrels become habituated to humans. That is a fit behavior. So squirrels can be approached in the city park and photographed within 20 feet, while not so in rural areas. It is now believed that coyotes and bears, under severe selection pressures from human hunting, are now different. The present populations are now behaviorally different than they were when the Europeans first arrived. Bears are now believed to be less aggressive than they were before because we shot all the aggressive bears, leaving the more submissive bears alive to have submissive babies. And it's thought now even coyotes are extremely wary animals, whereas they were not 300 years ago, but we shot all of the coyotes that were not wary and leaving behind only wary coyotes to have wary babies, and now coyotes are extremely wary of humans. So what we have here, this sandhill crane normally would not stand for a picture of from a human, but in this like suburban landscape, probably in a city park, it posed for a picture. The behavior of these ducklings, notice that they're all crowded together and they're right next to mom. This was in my neighbor's pool when I lived in South County. This kind of behavior increases the fitness of the ducklings because mom is a protective presence, and mom is actually going to lead them out of the pool. So any ducklings that are not with mom could potentially be in trouble because they won't be able to get out of the pool. The last thing here on animal communication is cooperative behavior. There are a lot of animals that live in packs or groups, and it turns out that cooperative behaviors are absolutely critical to the fitness of an individual. Chimpanzees are classic for this. Male chimpanzees fight for dominance in chimpanzee troops, and in a big chimpanzee group, males will recruit other males by grooming them to try and gain their cooperation when it comes to maintaining dominance over the entire group. The cooperative behavior is critical to fitness. So the chimps that are less cooperative, that try to dominate as a solitary chimp, they're not successful. And therefore, they don't get to reproduce with the females, and then that trait is not passed down. There's a heavy-duty selection pressure for cooperative behavior in pack animals. In wolf packs, same thing is true as it was in the chimp pack. Wolf pack behavior aids in survival of the wolves in the entire pack. There's generally an alpha male that dominates the other males in the pack, and an alpha female that dominates the females. The alpha male generally breeds with the females in the pack, even the alpha female. The alpha female and the alpha male are often the parents of some of the secondary wolves around them. One of the largest wolf packs in Yellowstone's history was the Druids, reaching a total of 37 wolves in the pack in 2001. The Druids did